I think it's quite reassuring.
Yeah,
I think
the downside though is, well, you obviously know Debian is doing something very similar. They only ever release once in a couple of years, maybe. Ubuntu is trying to do something similar because of the server customers, for one thing, but also desktop ones. But the problem I have sometimes is because they move very, very fast and they have to maintain lots of repositories for loads of different versions all the time. It means that they don't have too much time to update some of the packages to a newer version, which is maybe a good thing because they don't really want to disrupt things that might be compatible with your very stable desktop.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm using right now. I'm using Ubuntu 10.04. Now the thing about it, I use Reconq. I moved off. I don't want to go into the subject of Mozilla and Microsoft too much because I think it upsets some people, the things that I say about it. But in general, I've been trying to get off Firefox for a while now for several reasons, technical and not non-technical issues. But then I moved to a browser in KDE, which seems to be a lot better for most things than Conqueror. So, but the thing about this browser, in my version of Ubuntu, it's a very old version. So if I want to get the latest version, I have to step outside repositories, in which case I don't really get updates for it, and it might not work absolutely perfectly. So it means that I lack some nice features that have been added since then. I'm kind of looking at the version that's like a year and a half old. And that's just because I'm using an older version of the software. And on my, I've got next to me also a server running, it's basically running Squeeze, Debian. And it's still got Firefox 3.5, I think, or 3.6 something. I think it's 3.5 something. So there is not exactly much hope of it being updated automatically to a new version of Firefox because it's just it's not super. You see, this is why it's a good thing we have loads of distributions. Some people want to use the cutting edge and they want to use the latest browsers and get all the features. And some people say, no, don't have you bothered by incompatible plugins. Just run with the same version, keep it secure for the next 3 years, and just make sure, if it's not broken, just keep it running, basically. Which is fine, it's going to boot fine every time. It's not going to mess up with your kernel too much. It's maybe going to have bug fix releases for things in the kernel, but it's not going to break your wireless card compatibility with an update, which might happen with different distros.
Well, I can't remember the version of Reconq that I tried, but it's from the repos PC Linux OS, and I assume it's relatively current. I was very disappointed with my experience of that. I was, as you know, I run Chromium, but I found the rendering speed of it was horrendous and is very unstable. Now that could be an issue with my machine. And
I think, is it Conqueror you used or Reconq?
Reconq. Yeah, it was on a recommendation from a chat I was having in the TechBytes IRC channel, and somebody recommended I try it. And like I say, I was expecting too much from the recommendation, and I was very disappointed.
Did you try revisiting pages? Because the caching, the way it works in Google.
Yeah. I gave it a run for a couple of hours, and like I say, I was amazed by how slow it was in page rendering. It was as if there were 15 or 20 instances of it running at the same time. My fan was whirring like anything, and so I don't know what the issue was. But anyway,
very light in terms of memory.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever took more than 200 megabytes in my system, which is quite unusual because usually browsers really these days they just try to ace the benchmarks and they say, "Look at us, we're the fastest." And then I look at the memory, holy crap, 1 gigabyte of RAM, because nobody keeps track of these things. They say, "Oh, it's fast, it's slow," but nobody looks at how much memory and how much cache they actually use to do that.
Well, I've been using Chromium, and to be fair, I haven't had any issues with it in terms of leaking memory or being unstable. I mean, occasionally you'll get the typical error message, the all snap message, but
it's kind of scary. I only run Chromium when I want to test something, because from my point of view, basically what Chromium is, it's a search bar with a browser kind of around it,
Mm-hmm.
It's a search bar, but it makes you feel like, oh, I could stick around here and kind of do some browsing as well. So, it does the auto-completion, it checks whatever it is you're searching for, and reports to Google, and everything. I don't quite like it. It just feels like everything I want to do on the web has to be done through Google. And I'm not against Google. People know I'm not against Google. But I think that the practice of just depending on on Google search bar, with auto completions and when every keystroke is being monitored and stuff like that. You might even enter a password with the wrong window in focus, which is very common for people who are not used to Linux and the way it's doing the focus. You might even tap your password, and Google just gets your passwords too. Which isn't like, I'm not going to use it obviously, but the fact is, it's not there for the sake of being a browser. It's just there for the sake of keeping you within the realms of Google. In the same way that Internet Explorer, it's not a browser. It's just like somebody that Microsoft threw it in the frying pan and say, well, we put it with an operating system. And Firefox is really about browsing. Each browser has its own goals. I mean, Apple is about just putting the Cocoa and the brush metal and all that stuff from Apple in the browser, and they just needed a rendering engine, so they took something from KDE and then just called it something of their own and kind of say, oh, it's Apple innovation, it's open source. Well, it's open source because they have to keep it open source because they took it from there. But each company has these reasons to have a browser. It's really, really easy to make a browser these days because you've got all kinds of open source ones and you can just rebrand them, as you see with the GNU project, which does one of them. Yeah, I think it's called GNU Cat or something. And then you have Iceweasel. Yes, Iceweasel. So essentially, you've got all these browsers out there, and each one wants to brand it like, this is our browser. It's really, really special. Reconf is basically just a wrap up with, C++ around the existing things that exist in KDE framework, so you don't have to do something. Yeah.
Well, what I suggest now, we'll cut for our music break, and I believe you've got the track for tonight. So if we do that first, then we'll cover the last few topics before the end of the show.
Sure. The track is called Barcelona, which I believe is going to be in Spanish.
¿Por qué tanto perderse, tanto buscarse, sin encontrarse? Me encierran los muros de todas partes. Barcelona, te estás equivocando. No puedes seguir inventando que el mundo sea otra cosa y volar como mariposa. Barcelona, hace un calor que me deja fría por dentro, con este vicio de vivir mintiendo. Qué bonito sería tu mar si supiera yo nadar. Barcelona, mi mente está llena de cara de gente extranjera, conocida, desconocida. He vuelto a ser transparente, no existo más. Barcelona, siendo esposa de tus ruidos, tu laberinto extrovertido. No he encontrado la razón, porque me duele el corazón, porque es tan fuerte que solo podré vivirte en la distancia y escribirte una canción. Te quiero, Barcelona.
Ellos tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder.
Barcelona es poderosa.
Ellos tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder.
Barcelona es
Ellos
poderosa.
tienen poder. Ellos tienen poder.
Barcelona es poderosa. Barcelona.
Ellos tienen poder.
Barcelona es poderosa.
Right, thanks for staying with us. A little bit of a insider tip here about how we do that particular music break. What happens when myself and Roy are recording, we leave a gap of about 7 seconds, and then Roy splices the music track into the master track for sending out, obviously, for people to listen to. So since it's the last show, I thought I'd drop in that little nugget of information. We don't actually sit and listen to the music track whilst we're doing the show. So that is the one part, I suppose, of the show that's edited, if you want to look at it that way.
Right, it just means that a person listening to the show actually takes longer than it takes us to record the show.
Mm.
If
And that's quite disconcerting as well, because you look at the time and think you've only been recording for, say, 40 minutes, and after you've got 3 tracks put in there, you're looking at a lot longer. So, yes, it can be sometimes rather confusing.
Something you mentioned at the beginning of the show. One of the I found, based on my experiences, I watch a lot of YouTube in general, and I find loads of people who make like a 3-minute video, like a